Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. I hope you're all doing well. Let's talk, excuse me, let's talk, if we can, about Regis Prograis and Devin Haney, because they're going to fight this coming Saturday. Very intriguing fight. Some have called it the old and the new, because Devin, the first thing you notice about them really is that Devin is 25, Regis is now 34. But a very, very, very competitive fight, potentially. So let's begin with Devin Haney. Like I say, 25 years of age, from the United States, orthodox fighter, former undisputed, has achieved a tremendous amount for a young man. I mean, he's 25 is absolutely nothing. You would think that he's not even in his physical prime at 25, although of course people mature at different rates. Devin's 30 wins with 15 KOs, no draws, no defeats. He's coming off a victory in May of this year against Vasily Lomachenko. That was a very close fight. I completely reject the whole notion of it being a robbery. That's not to say I don't think Lomachenko won. You can absolutely make a case for him winning, but you can make a case for Haney winning as well. I can't remember what I scored it. I might have had Lomachenko ahead a point or two. I can't remember offhand. I'll have to go back and look at the review video I did. Prior to that, Devin fought George Kambosos twice in Australia, and again, I mean, you're talking, both those fights were in 2022, which meant Devin was 23 when he went over there. For him to go over to Australia and completely dominate a previously undefeated, almost undisputed champ. I think there was some conjecture over the WBC belt, but Kambosos had just come off his victory over Teofimo Lopez, was definitely, could be considered in his prime. And Devin went over there twice into his backyard and basically beat him up. I mean, for a young man to do that and to do it with such aplomb is pretty amazing, really. It really is. I mean, in a sense, I don't think Haney gets enough credit, this kid. By that point already, he was struggling to make 135, definitely. Possibly, if you go back further, I mean, the Joseph Diaz fight, a unanimous decision over 12, I thought he looked a bit flat in that fight. Although, well, what was the previous one? Was that Linares one? I think it was. He was actually shaken in the Linares fight. So you're thinking, has the guy got a dodgy chin? Is this a case of the weight? Because if you struggle to make weight, your punch resistance is diminished. I expected him, after beating Kambosos, to possibly move up, but no, he understandably hung around for the Lomachenko fight, although how he made the weight, I don't know. And Jojo Diaz is a southpaw, as is Lomachenko. And a lot of people have suggested, well, maybe that's his kryptonite. He doesn't like southpaws. I don't actually think that's the case. I think just because you look bad against someone because they have a certain attribute, it doesn't mean, in a sense, I always say, before you can be good, you've got to be bad or not so good. And I think quite possibly this kid has learnt on the job. And yes, if he's looked bad against southpaws, or if he's made mistakes defensively, or if he's had certain possible vulnerabilities when a guy gets up close, this is all stuff that can be rectified. This is how you learn. So the move up in weight, because this fight with Prograis at 140, Prograis is actually a belt holder. This is for the WBC super lightweight title. A lot of people have said, Prograis is going to be the bigger man. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think that he was huge for the weight, Linares, certainly over the last couple of years. I don't even see him stopping at 140 for that long, not to sort of unify all the belts. I mean, again, I could be wrong. I was wrong about him staying at lightweight for so long. But I see this kid ending up at 147, definitely by the time he's 27, 28. So I don't see him being the smaller man against Prograis, and it could well be that he is more physically powerful. He hits harder. His punch resistance is better. He can deal. He fights on the inside better. It can be any of those, a combination of those, all of them, and a combination of them, together at the same time, that come together to make him a more complete fighter and to look less vulnerable in little spots, because everybody knows he got badly shaken by Linares. Linares was past his best at the time. And he looked flat in certain fights. A little bit, well, not as good as you thought he might be. But let's not forget, he dominated Kambosos, who is an incredibly game fighter, real tough guy, Kambosos. I've got a lot of time for George Kambosos, a lot of time. And look, we all know about Lomachenko, and that was a close fight. But for a guy who was essentially weight drained to take Vasily Lomachenko down to the wire, even though Lomachenko himself might be past his best, and probably is past his best, it's still a hell of an achievement. So you've then got Regis Prograis, who is 29 wins, 1 defeat. He's got 24 KOs in the wins column, but he is 34 now. And I don't think it's an exaggeration to suggest that it may well be past his best. I actually think we saw a great sort of ascendancy from Regis Prograis right up to the, what do they call that damn thing, that tournament that he lost to Josh Taylor in the final, the World Boxing Super Series, is that what it's called? Yeah. I think we saw him ascending right up to the Taylor fight. And the Taylor fight itself, Taylor won a majority decision. I thought that was a really close fight. And of course, Taylor ended up with a busted up eye. And you could see that Regis has got some work done, to put it mildly. Had it been in America, would Taylor have got the decision? Who knows? I mean, but a draw wouldn't have been a bad call. I mean, to me, I think that was a fight of two halves, essentially. I think Prograis probably was ahead after 6, and then Taylor made some adjustments. He made some good adjustments as well. I mean, Taylor at the time was definitely an elite fighter. But yeah, it could have gone either way. I mean, it was a very, very close fight. And that remains the only time when Prograis has ever looked like losing. Well, he did lose, but in all of his other fights, he's either dominated or he's, been forced to work but come through and, grabbed the win. Not comfortably, but well, yeah, maybe comfortably. It was hard work, but comfortable fight. The one I'm thinking of is the title winning fight with Jose Zepeda. Because although, he stopped Zepeda in the 11th round, Prograis was winning the rounds, or most of them anyway. But Zepeda was always dangerous and was always putting it on him and always making him work and forcing him to fight at a high pace, which is what you need to do. If you're being beaten, you can be being beaten in a fight. But if you're forcing an opponent to fight at a pace he doesn't like, or to use up huge gulps of energy, and you're able to land some of your punches, you've always got a chance of winning, especially if it's a 12-round fight. And yeah, okay, Regis stopped him, but he was forced to work, definitely. Against Danilito Zorrilla, that was a split decision. I thought he looked absolutely awful in that fight, to be honest. Zorrilla was down, but apart from that, I mean, that was Regis's worst performance. It was a split decision. Actually, come to think of it, that probably is the closest he's come to being beaten, apart from the Taylor fight. But he stopped Ivan Redkach in 6 rounds. Previously undefeated Juan Hernandez in 2020, stopped him in 3. And Tyron McKenna, of course, who we saw at the weekend, he stopped him in 6. He was the only man to stop. I think McKenna's retired since Saturday. But, Kirill Relik went out in 6. Terry Flanagan was a unanimous decision victory. He stopped Julius Ndongo in 2 rounds when Ndongo had only had 1 loss on his record, and that was to Terence Crawford. So that was a good result at the time. But yeah, there was that ascendancy. And then afterwards, because of, I don't know, what went wrong with his career after that World Boxing Super Series thing, it just seemed to sort of, his career stagnated for a couple of years. He signed promotional contracts, then he was let go, and then it was all a bit, I think he ended up on Triller, didn't he, of all places? I mean, okay, I hope they paid him well, but, it was just a very sort of stop-start couple of years for Regis. And you could go as far as to say he lost a couple of years. He certainly lost the momentum he had from the Super Series contests, and he kind of petered out a little bit. So he then finally got his opportunity in November 2020 22 against Zepeda and took it with that 11th round win, stoppage win. And the question now is, can he roll back the years and take on the much younger Devin Haney, who, again, moving up in weight, I think, well, I could be wrong about this, but I don't think it will be a case of Regis being able to just sort of get in close and work Haney's body and put it on the kid. That's what he's going to try and do. Make no mistake about it, as good as Haney is stylistically and the skills that he has, he's got very good control of the range, uses his feet well, very good jab, good combination puncher. But there can be gaps in his defensively. He can be there can be little lapses. I think it's a question of Regis is going to have to get inside from the word go. I mean, I know this is 12 rounds, 36 minutes of fighting, but if he doesn't start quick, I can see Haney getting into a good rhythm, and if he picks up the early rounds, Haney, then I think, and he probably will. I think, all right, even if he's winning those rounds, Regis has got to be doing some work. Regis has got to be sapping his energy. Regis has got to be making him think, maybe second guess himself. He's got to hurt him early. Even if sometimes you can be losing rounds, but you can be winning the fight. I mean, Canelo has had several fights like this. And in the second half of the fight, by the middle rounds, by 6, 7, 8, you want to see Regis really putting it on Haney. Now, the question, of course, is, can he do it? And don't get me wrong. I mean, Regis has got skills himself. He's a good fighter, and he is a southpaw. And okay, like I said a moment ago, Haney struggled with Lomachenko to some degree, Jojo Diaz, but again, I think that probably had more to do with the weight and with the fact that in the case of Lomachenko, he's a brilliant fighter. Let's not forget that. So I think Haney at this weight, that with the extra 5 pounds, is going to be physical enough to survive any sort of rough patches, any kind of mauls. Regis hits very hard. If he if he clips Haney clean, Haney could be in trouble. He could go over. We just don't know. But I do think Regis will finish strong in this fight. I think he'll be putting the heat on Haney, but I think Haney will have enough control, enough discipline, and enough punch variety to contain Regis for long enough, or for enough in the fight, enough in each round, to win most of the rounds. And my prediction for this fight is that Devin Haney will win a decision over Regis Prograis in, I'd say, either 115, 113, 116, 112, something like that. The cards will vary slightly, but round about that. Can Regis win? Yes, he can, if he clips him hard, if he puts the heat on him from the word go and really busts him down, grinds him down. It's feasible. But don't forget, Haney's got some pop too. I mean, he couldn't get rid of Kambosos in 2 fights. I don't see him knocking out Regis, but I think he has enough physical strength and pop to sort of contain Regis's onslaught, or the potential for onslaught. So I see Haney winning this fight, like I say, probably a close-ish unanimous decision, 115, 113, 116, 112. Hard fought, but clear and not controversial. That's my prediction. If you've got a prediction, or if you agree with me, you disagree with me, whatever, leave your comments below. Please do. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button and the like button as well. That helps us out. I'm eager for this fight. I want to see this fight. It's very, very intriguing, especially the generation difference, 10 years difference. Let me know what you think. I'll answer your comments. And yeah, thanks a lot, and bye for now.